2880 Prisoner of the Mirror. Rain stared at the reflection for a while, then sighed and sat down on the floor. The other Mordred, huh? Is that what I am supposed to call you, mister? The reflection smiled. You can call me whatever you like. Although I am used to going by Mordred, calling me the other Mordred would imply that I have a weaker claim on being myself than he does, which is a bit sad. Also, he hesitated, then said in a subtly sullen voice. Mister, seriously, I'd rather not be called a mister. I am a young man in my prime, after all. Rain gave the mirror a dubious look. You're past 30, aren't you? The reflection coughed. Well, yes, but, Rain chuckled. You say that I can call you whatever I like, but there are all these conditions. In any case, you seem to be aware of who I am. He remained silent for a moment, then nodded. I see a lot of what he does, and he sees a lot. So, I'm somewhat acquainted with who you are. The reflection, Mordred, studied her for a short while and raised an eyebrow. You don't seem to be surprised to meet me, though. I'd have thought that finding an identical copy of an infamous Supreme would be at least a little bit startling. Rain let out a little scoff. I know a guy who has 7 bodies. Having one identical copy is not that impressive, as far as I'm concerned. The other Mordred smiled. Oh, I think I know that guy as well. After that, he fell silent for a moment, and then said in a neutral tone. I, on the other hand, am quite surprised to see you. My other self usually doesn't let anyone near me. He is very concerned about my safety, you see. So, I did not expect that he would allow you to wander in here unsupervised. It's a nice surprise. Rain could not help but sigh after hearing that. Damn it. She lingered a little, then said. It's probably because he knows that I am harmless. I wouldn't hurt a fly. She had always been careful to keep her flaw a secret, but the King of Nothing must have learned about it, anyway, or at least guessed its general nature. That was most likely the reason why he allowed her to come in contact with the Prisoner of the Mirror. Mordred looked at her with amusement and smiled. Really, what a funny coincidence. Actually, I am the same, harmless, I mean. You have my sympathy. His smile turned a little bitter. It is difficult to be harmless in a world where weakness is seen as sin, isn't it? Rain simply shrugged. There is a bit of that, yes. But I manage. She leaned back a little and looked at the ceiling. I guess any sin can be forgiven if you are lucky enough. I am quite a lucky girl, myself. She glanced at the tall mirror in which the strange reflection seemed to be trapped and offered him a sympathetic look. You seem to be both harmless and unlucky, though. Must be tough. He mirrored her shrug with a smile. There is a bit of it, yes. Rain remained silent for a while, then leaned forward and asked. Hey, since you see everything that the King of Nothing sees, perhaps you can explain to me what happened. I am completely lost here. What the hell is going on? Mordred scratched the tip of his nose with an awkward look. Well, let's see, there is a man called the Dreamspawn, who wants to consume all of humanity and become sacred. Over the course of the last few months, he slowly bewitched everyone and made them into his thralls. You were enthralled, too, and used as a hidden blade to kill Song of the Fallen. Lucky for you, she survived and cleansed your mind of the contamination. Some of your memories are missing as a result. Rain blinked a few times. That does explain a few things. Wait, did you say that the entire human race is enthralled? Her heart skipped a beat. Mordred sighed. Quite a few nightmare creatures, too. At the moment, my other self and the Dreamspawn are at war. The Lord of Shadows and Changing Star are who knows where, doing who knows what. Hopefully, they'll return in time to stop those two from destroying the world. Rain rubbed her face tiredly. So, I was enthralled as well. If the Dreamspawn was in my head, that probably explains how I was able to ascend so soon. Did he coach me? What an honor, wow. And she stabbed Lady Cassia. She groaned. Damn it, I finally achieved natural ascension, and I don't even remember how. That knowledge is gone forever. What am I going to do? Rain was supposed to share her experience with humanity to empower a new generation of awakened, and all generations after that. Now, that precious experience was gone, erased from her head by Cassie. And since Rain could not ascend for the second time, she would never experience and learn ascension again. Would Cassie herself remember the contaminated memories she erased? She would, unless she erased her own recollection of contaminated memories to protect herself from being enthralled. In that case, I can help you with that. Mordred's voice distracted Rain from her dark thoughts. She looked at him and raised an eyebrow. What? The charming reflection hesitated for a short while, then shrugged with a smile. Natural ascension, I can explain how it works to you. Actually, I can teach you how to become a saint without conquering a nightmare, as well. You really are a lucky girl, it seems. You just happen to stumble on the only person in the world who can. Rain gave the man a long look. And how would you know about natural ascension, let alone natural transcendence? Trapped in the mirror, Mordred leaned back and sighed. Why wouldn't I? That was how I became a saint, after all. 2,881 harmless people. Rain stared at him in shock. You're lying. That was the first thing that came to her mind, so she blurted it out. She was the only human to have achieved natural awakening, after all, the only awakened who had never carried the spell. But deep down, she did not believe that the prisoner of the mirror was trying to deceive her. She felt dismayed. No, actually, she felt happy. If there were others like her, then she didn't have to carry the crushing weight of responsibility alone anymore. Someone else, someone older and more experienced, no less, would be able to help her, or perhaps even do it for her. That was great, wasn't it? Yeah, Rain cleared her throat. But why did she feel so dismayed, then? Mordred chuckled. I wish I were lying, but sadly, I am telling the truth. He fell silent for a moment, then offered in an apologetic tone. That doesn't take away from your accomplishment or your uniqueness, though. To tell you the truth, Rain, I used a backdoor to become a master, and then to become transcendent. I guess you can say that I cheated. She frowned, feeling a headache. You know, mister, if you want me to stop calling you mister, you'd better stop talking in riddles and start explaining things clearly. He smiled. Sure, no problem. First of all, let me tell you that, unlike you, I am and have been a carrier of the nightmare spell. I awakened the same way other people awaken, by conquering the first nightmare and anchoring my soul to the dream realm through a citadel. After that, however, I spent a long time trapped in a different mirror, just like I am trapped in this mirror now. Mordred sighed, then raised a hand and mimed knocking on the surface of the mirror from inside. Actually, I am not literally trapped in this particular mirror. Rather, I am under house arrest at the very heart of my brother's personal mirror realm, within his soul. Mirrors like this one are just windows I can use to look at the outside world. Rain gave him a concerned look. That felt like an unnecessary tangent. Mordred let out a quiet laugh. Oh, sorry. In any case, you need to understand something about me and my other self. We are a shattered being, he and one, two parts of the same whole. That is our flaw. Both of us are independent beings, but at the same time, it is in our nature to be pulled together in an attempt to become whole once more. Do you see what is strange about it? Rain frowned. Two people can't have the same flaw. All flaws are unique, just like all aspects are. He nodded. Indeed. So, it would not be fair to say that we are different people. Rather, neither of us is a real person, we are just parts of a person, both missing the other half. The flaw is not the only thing that we share, either. We also share the same aspect, as well as a kind of connection that even cannot explain. We are meant to be the same being, and yet, at some point, one of us was supreme, while the other was merely awakened. Do you see the problem? Rain furrowed her brow. Sounds like an issue of balance. All systems strive for equilibrium, though, that's the holy law of structural mechanics. Mordred chuckled. Structural mechanics? Well, I suppose you were right. As a result, my existence weakens my other self, while his existence propels me toward greater power. However, a supreme being possesses much greater, metaphysical mass, so to say. Which means that I was being pulled upward much more than he was being pulled down. So, I had a much easier time achieving natural ascension and transcendence than anyone else would, the world itself was on my side. He coughed. Which is not to say that I did not achieve anything on my own. I might have had a powerful advantage, but I did invent the essence technique to become a master myself, as well as solving the mystery of how to become transcendence. Granted, I already knew the final form of what I was trying to achieve, my other half had already walked the path of ascension in my stead, after all. The nightmare spell was also helpful, as far as understanding my own soul was concerned. Letting out a sigh, he glanced at Rain. Which means that I can teach you how to become a saint, even if actually becoming one would be much harder for you than it was for me. I can also explain how you became a master. I think it will be fun, to have a pupil. I am mostly by myself here in this mirror, you see. Rain stared at the mirror in question for a while, then leaned back, stretched her legs, and laughed. You know, when a strange man assures you that he is harmless and promises to give you something precious if you follow him, the natural instinct should be to run away. At best, you'll be scammed. At worst, oh, did I forget to mention that the strange man in question looks exactly like a notorious war criminal and serial killer, but insists that he's not the same person at all. Mordred blinked a few times. Well, if you put it like that, I guess it does sound a little concerning. Rain nodded, considered something for a few seconds, and spoke in an as-you-going tone. That said, sure, I'll be your pupil, why not? Mordred, meanwhile, was saying. However, I can assure you, what, you will? Rain nodded again. Yes. Why, are you surprised? Do you maybe think that only a crazy person would agree to your offer despite knowing how it sounds? He nodded slowly. To be honest, yes, I was thinking something along the lines. Rain laughed quietly. That's just because you don't know about my previous teacher. Mordred stared at her with a silent question in his mirror-like eyes. Rain leaned forward and said in a low tone, "Listen, my previous teacher was a real devil. He forced me to track down and kill countless nightmare creatures when I was a mere mundane person. He tossed me into a canyon once. He forced me to drag my grievously wounded friend across a wild region of the dream realm while an awakened tyrant was hunting us down. I had to kill the tyrant myself, in the end. Me, a harmless girl, who wouldn't hurt a fly." She pursed her lips and grumbled. "He appointed himself as my roommate for 4 years, and never paid any rent. He forced me to get a tattoo of his pet snake. He even hired his girlfriend to be my tutor. If that is not nepotism, I don't know what is." Mordred's eyes were wide by that point. "Oh, my, you endured a lot. That person, whoever he is, sounds completely deranged. Surely, I'll be a step up." Rain gave him a long look and grinned. "Not in a million years. You can compete for 7th place, as far as people I learned from go." Mordred seemed stunned. 7th. Only 7th. Rain nodded. "Of course. Do you know what kind of people have taught me in the past?" "Let's see." She raised a hand and started counting on her fingers. "The Lord of Shadows, Changing Star of the Immortal Flame Clan, Saint Kai the Dragonslayer, the Jade Saint, my mom, Chief Bethany, she's the person who brought electricity to the Dream Realm. By the way, am I forgetting someone?" "I must be." Mordred cleared his throat. "Yes, I see. It seems that I am in good company, indeed. 2,882 angels in the marble. Some time laddie are." Having said goodbye to her new acquaintance, Rain was in her new living quarters. She was sitting across from Cassie. The blind seer was in a much better state than before. She was clean, at least, having washed away the blood and soot that had covered her body. There were no wounds or scars on her, either, since they had been cleansed by the miraculous white flames. Drops of blood were still seeping from beneath her blindfold, though, which made Rain feel a little concerned. Finally, Cassie sighed and leaned back. "It is a peculiar one. I am not entirely sure I understand the scope of your new ability." She was talking about Rain's ascended ability, of course. Now that Cassie had hit a deal with the homicidal supreme who was waging war to obliterate humanity, they finally received an opportunity to rest and have a proper meal. After that, Rain immediately asked Cassie to take a look at her aspect. She had not died of curiosity, in the end, but just barely. Cassie remained silent for a few moments. "Well, first of all, you can assign 3 epithets at the same time now. But you probably already knew that." Rain nodded. "Yes. So, my ascended ability. What can I do?" Cassie frowned. "Basically, it is about knowing the truth of things. It allows you to communicate with all things and understand all languages." Now, it was Rain who had to frown. She really tried to hold herself back, but indignation still found its way into her voice. "What? My ascended ability is to be a glorified automatic translator. What kind of crap was that?" Cassie slowly shook her head. "No, not quite. It is far more profound than that. However, I don't really." She paused for a moment and then sighed. "I think it has to do with your attribute, Gotthard." Rain tilted her head a little. That attribute was a very esoteric one. Its description simply stated that her heart was deeply bonded with the world, and nobody, not even Rain, was entirely sure what it meant. It seemed to be connected to her ability to accumulate spirit essence, as well as to the fact that the weather sometimes changed depending on her mood. It wasn't just Rain's heart that was bonded to the world seemed to be bonded to her heart, as well. Cassie remained silent for a short while, choosing her words, and then said in a hesitant tone. "That ability has to do with the spirit, I think." Understanding languages is merely the side effect, the true ability is communication. You can communicate with the spirits of things, and therefore, you can know their truth and understand them. You know how a famous sculptor once said that every slab of stone has a sculpture hidden inside of it, and how he simply takes a stone and cuts away all excess parts to create a statue. Well, you'll be able to ask the stone what is hiding inside it, and what it wants to be. She paused for a second and then added, that is just a metaphor, of course. Oh, and I'd wager that it will be easier to communicate with things that you can call by their names. Rain was still confused. What is a spirit, though? What kinds of things have spirits? Can I talk to animals? To plants? To nightmare creatures? Cassie hesitated for a while. I'm not entirely certain. All living beings have a spirit, that's for sure, even if it takes a supreme to know how to express the spirit through their will. But things that are not living might have their own spirits, too. A weapon can have a spirit. A mountain can, as well. In ancient Rome, legions were believed to have spirits of their own, too. I really cannot tell you. In fact, I'd like you to tell me. She smiled, but I don't think that you'll be actually able to talk to a mountain, or to a rock. Except if it's a truly extraordinary rock, possibly. I think that in most cases, the act of communication will be no different from sensing something intuitively. That, I have a lot of experience with. It is a very helpful ability to have, even if in your case that intuition will only hint at the nature of things, not at events that transpired in the past or will transpire in the future. Rain leaned back and stared at the ceiling with a dazed expression. What a strange ability. She was too confused to be either disappointed or elated. The more she thought about it, though, the more it made a peculiar and fascinating kind of sense. Well, first of all, I want to be a builder, you know. So, let's say a piece of metal can tell me about its structural integrity and whether or not it has hidden points of failure. Or if a piece of stone indeed tells me what kind of statue it wants to be. That'll be helpful, I think. Sensing the nature of things, that is. She considered something for a few moments. Actually, now that I think about it, I've been dealing with the true nature of things for a long while now. It has to do with my awakened ability, with assigning epithets. Assigning fitting epithets takes way less essence than assigning ones that go against the subject's nature. Making a sharp sword dull is more difficult than making it sharper. If I can sense the true nature of things, I'll be able to assign them more potent epithets. That is already a boon. Rain lingered for a short while, then added. As for my dormant ability, I think it will work the other way around. From what you tell me, spirit seems to have a lot to do with identity. So, by giving something a name, I will be helping that thing develop a spirit, possibly. If so, I'll be able to communicate with a named thing better than with a nameless one, and it will reveal more to me. She smiled. Well, and being able to sense the nature of various things will be incredibly helpful in general, no matter what I do. It's like divination, right? Only instead of divination, it's communication. He smiled dimmed, becoming a little petulant. Still, I was hoping for something cool and flashy. June always walks away from frozen explosions like some kind of dashing hero. I don't even want to think about what kind of abhorrently cool ability he'll receive as a master. What am I supposed to tell him? That I can interpret many languages now? Rain closed her eyes with an exasperated sigh. The nightmare spell is already doing that for everyone, except me. Cassie smiled. I'd be thinking about something else right now, though. Rain raised an eyebrow. Oh, what? The blind seer hesitated, then shrugged. I'd be wondering, does existence have a spirit? How high on the path of ascension would I have to climb to speak to the world itself? Something like that. Rain spared her a dubious glance. After a short while, she said, Lady Cassia, Cassie, have you forgotten what world we live in? Shivering, she shook her head. It's the dream realm, the land of nightmares. Let's hope that I'll never grow powerful enough to hear what it has to say. Come to think about it, being able to sense the nature of things was a blade that cut both ways.